She didn't show up to the wedding. But her twin sister did. Same dress. Same smile. Same lie. I said, I do. And didn't realize who I said it to until it was too late. And by then, someone had already signed the papers. It was supposed to be a beautiful mess of a day. Two sisters, identical twins, getting married at the same venue, on the same afternoon, one after the other. One stage. Two ceremonies. One set of slightly overwhelmed vendors trying to keep everything straight. I was marrying Sarah. We'd been together 2 years. Met through work. She was the calmer one, more grounded. Her sister Emily was louder, more impulsive. Fun in short bursts, exhausting in long ones. We all joked that planning a double wedding was either the best or worst idea anyone ever had. Depending on the hour, it felt like both. The day started in chaos. Wrong bouquet delivered. Hairstylist confused the two brides and started prepping Emily with Sarah's reference photo. A groomsman handed off the rings to the wrong best man. The officiants almost stood in the wrong order. Everyone laughed. Everyone said, classic twin stuff. It was hot. August. Shade was minimal. People fanned themselves with paper programs and made comments about how they'd never forget a wedding like this. The ceremonies were back to back. Emily and her fiancé, Rob, went first. Their vows were short, punchy, full of inside jokes and a little too much PDA. Applause, cheers, some guy yelled, "Good luck, man," as they walked back down the aisle. Then it was our turn. Sarah came down the aisle with her dad. Same dress style as Emily's but a slightly different cut, at least, that's what I'd been told. The veil was longer. The shoes were white instead of cream. She looked radiant. Nervous, but steady. Her smile was a little restrained, but I figured she was just overwhelmed. We said our vows. Hers were shorter than I expected. No eye contact during the first half. But the moment we were pronounced husband and wife, she squeezed my hand tight. I remember that. Afterward, we took photos. Some with the family, some with just us. The photographer kept calling her Emily by mistake. She laughed it off. Told him he wasn't the first. Or the fifth. At the reception, things blurred. Speeches, dinner, too many cameras flashing. Her cousin tripped trying to set up a live stream. Someone put on the wrong playlist and started Emily's first dance song during our cake cutting. She whispered to me, "I'm sorry everything's so tangled today." "It's fine," I said. "As long as you're here." She kissed me quickly. No answer. It wasn't until later, much later, that I'd start going back through each of those tiny, passable mistakes. And wonder which ones were actually accidents. Because the next morning, when I looked at the woman in my bed, something felt off. Not wrong. Just, slightly misplaced. The morning after the wedding, she was already awake before me. Sitting at the edge of the bed, scrolling her phone. Her hair was down, her back to me. I said her name softly, "Sarah." She turned, smiled, but not in a way that felt familiar. It wasn't a bad smile. Just, blank. A placeholder. The kind you give a stranger who thinks they know you. She walked into the kitchen, said something about ordering coffee, then paused like she couldn't remember the name of the place we always went. I reminded her. "Oh, right," she said, too quickly. "That one." I tried to shake it off. Big day. Overstimulation. Stress. People get scattered. Still, I felt it. Like I'd woken up next to someone wearing my wife's skin but not her habits. It started small. A dozen little things in the first 48 hours. She asked me where I kept the mugs. We'd been living together for over a year. She texted my mom, "Thanks for everything yesterday, hope to meet soon." They'd had lunch 3 times. She stood on the wrong side when we went to open a joint bank account. Sarah always stood on my left. It was a dumb thing to notice. But I noticed. Then there were the questions. Ones Sarah had asked before, years ago. As if we hadn't already talked about them. Where I wanted to live long term. Whether I still liked my job. Whether I'd ever thought about kids. She asked them with curiosity, not follow-up, but like she was hearing my answers for the first time. I brought it up casually at dinner that night. "You feeling okay?" She blinked. "Yeah. Why?" "Just seems like you're resetting. A bit." She tilted her head. "I mean, a lot just happened." "Fair." Then she smiled. Wider this time. Too wide. "You're not having regrets already, are you?" "No," I said quickly. "Of course not." And I wasn't. But something in her tone felt like a test. That night, We got a message from her sister Emily. A photo from the ceremony. Both of them side by side in their dresses. Her caption, "Still can't believe we pulled it off." Pulled what off? I showed it to her. She looked at it a long time. Then just said, "Yeah. Me neither." And for the first time since we said, "I do," I wondered if she was talking about the wedding. Or the switch. A week after the wedding, we were at her friend Kelsey's apartment for a small dinner. Just 4 of us, me, her, Kelsey, and Kelsey's boyfriend, Mitch. It was relaxed. Wine, takeout, music low in the background. I was in the kitchen grabbing drinks when I heard Kelsey laugh and say, "So what's it like being married to Emily?" There was a pause. Then my wife said, "Different." Kelsey laughed again. "I bet." I walked back in. "What was that?" Kelsey looked embarrassed. "Sorry, I meant Sarah. You two just look so alike. It's easy to mix up." But she didn't sound convinced. And my wife didn't correct her. Later that night, as we were getting ready for bed, I asked, "Did you hear what Kelsey said?" She shrugged. "I figured you didn't want to make it awkward." I stared at her. "Wouldn't it be more awkward to call you by the wrong name and just let it slide?" She didn't answer. Instead, she started brushing her hair. That same night, as I turned off the lamp, I noticed something that hadn't clicked before. Her ring, the one I put on her finger at the ceremony, was different. Same shape. Same stone. But the band was thinner. Less worn. I knew that ring. I picked it. I had it resized. It had a scratch on the inside of the band from when I dropped it once during a phone call. I remember checking it obsessively. This one had no scratch. I reached over and took her hand gently. "This isn't the same ring." She looked down at it. "I think I swapped it for one that fits better. I didn't want to bug you. I could have had it resized again." "I know. I just figured it was fine." She pulled her hand away. We lay in silence for a while. Then she rolled over and whispered, "You're acting like you don't trust me." I didn't answer. Because I was still trying to figure out how I got here. How I could know a person's face, their voice, their habits. And still not be sure I married the right one. A few days later, I came home early. Work had slowed down. I figured I'd surprise her, maybe pick up dinner on the way, try to shake the weirdness that had settled between us like dust. We hadn't fought, not directly. But everything was just wrong by degrees. The lights were off when I came in. Her purse was on the counter. Her phone was charging in the wall. But the apartment was silent. I called out, "Sarah?" No answer. I walked toward the bedroom. Still no sound. Then I heard it, muffled voices from the bathroom. Not Liv. A recording. The door was cracked just slightly. Her phone screen glowed inside, perched on the edge of the sink, playing a video. I didn't mean to listen. I didn't mean to see. But I froze the second I heard her voice. Not the one I knew from everyday life, but her laughing, louder voice. The one I'd always associated with Emily. On the screen, she was sitting in a robe on a hotel bed, holding a glass of champagne. The video looked recent, maybe the night before the wedding. She said, "He won't notice." Not at first. Then a man's voice off camera, and after. She smirked. "I just need it to look real for a little while. Once it's filed, it doesn't matter." The man said something else I couldn't catch. She laughed again. "Come on. Sarah's fine with it." She agreed. "She wants out. I want in. He's a good guy. And easy." She clinked her glass against the edge of the screen like a toast. I backed away from the door. Stood in the hallway for what felt like forever. When she finally came out, hair wet, wrapped in a towel, I pretended I hadn't heard a thing. She smiled. Asked if I wanted Thai food. I said sure. Because now I knew. This wasn't a switch. This was a deal. And I wasn't a husband. I was a transaction. I played the video again that night. Alone. With headphones on. I needed to hear every word clearly. Every inflection. Every moment that proved this wasn't confusion, it was construction. They'd planned it. Sarah and Emily. Maybe from the start, maybe somewhere in the middle, but by the time the wedding came around, they had it mapped out. Sarah wanted out, of the relationship, of whatever expectations were weighing on her. Emily wanted in. And I was the opening. The next morning, I checked the joint account we'd set up for the wedding expenses. Nothing had been touched since the week before, but there was a new request pending, a secondary credit card tied to the same account. Emily's name. Not Sarah's. I didn't approve it. I didn't say anything, either. because I needed to see how far she was willing to take it. That day, she sent me a message while I was at work. We should finalize the paperwork this week. Courthouse appointment still good for Thursday. The legal side. The final filing. Up until then, everything had been ceremonial. The wedding was the performance, but the license, the official registration, that was the part that made it permanent. I wrote back, Thursday still works. But I made a second appointment. With a lawyer. I didn't tell him everything, just enough, potential identity confusion, suspicion of fraudulent intent, unfiled license, questionable consent. He nodded slowly. If she signs under a name that isn't hers, or with intention to deceive, you have grounds to void it all. Retroactively, if needed. Even if it's already filed. Especially then. I thanked him. Left with a folder of documents and a plan. That night at home, she acted like nothing was wrong. She cooked, played music, asked me if I'd thought more about the honeymoon we never booked. I watched her move through the kitchen in my shirt and wondered what her endgame was. Was it about citizenship? Debt? A clean legal tie she could use later? She never once said my name that evening. Not my name. Only, babe. Only, hey. I wondered if she could even say it without hesitating. Tomorrow, I'd find out. And so would she. Thursday came fast. We were supposed to meet at the courthouse at 2 p.m. to file the marriage license. She texted me at noon. See you soon. Let's make it official, smiley face. I didn't respond. I got there early. Sat on a bench outside, folder in my lap. Watched people come and go, nervous couples, parents with phones out, someone in a suit holding flowers. It all looked innocent. Then, at 1:37, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Hello. The voice was strained, familiar, but worn down. Hey, it's Rob. Rob, Emily's original fiancé. The one she was supposed to marry the same day I married Sarah. We hadn't spoken since the wedding. Barely even at the event. He always seemed like background noise. Quiet. Disconnected. Now his voice was shaky. Tight. I need to talk to you, he said. Today. I told him where I was. He showed up 20 minutes later, limping slightly, sunglasses on, dried blood on his shirt collar. What the hell happened to you? I asked. He took off the glasses. His left eye was swollen. I tried to ask too many questions, he said. And I didn't go along with it. With what? He looked at me, dead serious. They switched. On purpose. Not last minute. Way before the wedding. They planned it. Sarah backed out, Emily stepped in. Said it was for both of them. I pulled out the flash drive from my folder. Yeah, I said. I know. He sat beside me, breathed out slowly. I thought Emily was acting strange, but I figured it was wedding nerves. Then she left. Right after the ceremony. Never saw her again. Just a note in the hotel room. Trust me, this is better for both of us. He turned to me. You need to be careful. Emily doesn't do things halfway. I nodded. She tried to open a credit line under my name last week, I said. The request bounced. She did the same to me, 6 months ago. That's how we ended up engaged. She talked fast, made things seem real. Then came the paperwork. I handed him a copy of the annulment form. I'm filing this today. With a statement and a video. He stared at it. Then said, good. At 1:59, she arrived. Hair done, lipstick perfect, white folder in hand. She saw Rob first. Paused. Then saw me. I stood. Walked toward her. She opened her mouth, probably to say something charming, disarming. But I spoke first. This meeting's cancelled, I said. And so is the rest of this story. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just handed her a copy of the file I was submitting, everything attached. She didn't take it. She just stared at me. Then at Rob. Then back at me. And for the first time, she didn't have anything clever to say. I filed the statement at 2:12 p.m. The clerk didn't blink when I slid over the documents, the annulment request, the flash drive, the notarized identity report. Just asked if I wanted certified copies sent to both parties. No, I said. Just one. They nodded. Stamped it. That was it. The marriage was void before it ever became real. Legally, I had never been her husband. By the time I stepped outside, Emily was gone. So was Rob. The bench was empty. No scene. No screaming in the parking lot. She left exactly the way she'd entered, quietly, deliberately, like it had all been rehearsal. I drove straight home. She wasn't there. Half of her things were gone. The drawer she kept her makeup in was empty. Closet half cleared. But the ring, the one I never actually chose for her, was left on the kitchen counter in a ramekin. Next to it, a single sticky note. No hard feelings. Just the wrong story. I took a photo of it, then threw both the note and the ring in the trash. That evening, I checked the joint account again. 2 login attempts had been made that morning. One from a new device. Blocked both. Closed the account. Froze the credit reports. I filed one last report, not for revenge, but protection. The digital trail was clean and enough for her name to flag in background checks for at least a while. And then I turned everything off. Socials. Emails. The phone number we used to share a plan on. I left one last email scheduled for her, no attachments, no insults, just 10 words. You never really married me. But I ended it anyway. The next day, I drove out of town. A friend of mine had a guest house he barely used. Said I could stay as long as I needed. It was quiet. No twin dresses. No fake vows. No paper fans or crooked photos. Just quiet. And I finally realized something. They hadn't tricked me because I was stupid. They'd tricked me because I was decent. But now I wasn't interested in being decent anymore. Not to them. Especially not to the ones who think love is just paperwork with good lighting. I never saw her again. Not in person. Not online. She vanished like someone who had done this before. Probably had. She didn't leave footprints, just outcomes. But a month later, I got a call from a blocked number. Didn't answer. The voicemail was 20 seconds of silence. Then her voice. You didn't have to make it ugly. And then a click. No apology. No regret. Just annoyance that her version of the story didn't finish the way she'd planned. I saved it. Then I sent a package to her old address, the one tied to her first application for the marriage license. Inside, a printed transcript of the voicemail, and the same USB she gave me. I added one file of my own. A screen recording of her credit denial notice. The one that now listed her as under fraud investigation for misuse of federal documents. I didn't include a return address. She'd know. Weeks passed. Then I heard from Rob again, a text this time. Emily tried to open another account under my name last week. Blocked. Thanks again. I told him no problem. That was the end of it for me. No confrontation. No shouting match. No dramatic closure. I just made sure the people who needed to see what happened, saw it. The lawyer. The registry office. The financial department that red flagged her ID. Even the photographer, who quietly took down the entire wedding album from his site without a word. She built a game around mirrors and matching names. A plan based on how similar two people could seem, and how slow people are to notice the difference. But I noticed. And I acted. Quietly. No fire. No courtroom. Just the sound of locks clicking behind me, and hers clicking in front of her.